Okay, so now that we understand what share permissions are, I want to add share permissions into my drawing, and we're going to learn how things are going to work out. Okay, so share permissions, this is going to be my other little column here called share. Now I want to tell you that when it comes to conflicts with shared permissions, it's the same thing. It's a cumulative effect. So share plus share equals cumulative. All right. The permissions are named a little different, but it's the same thing. So if I gave, let's say I gave sales change permissions, and I gave marketing read permissions, and I gave managers full control permissions, then you would add all that up together, okay? Change plus read plus full control equals, well, full control. Because full control can do everything, can it? It gets everything. So that would be, if you had a user who is a member of all three of these groups, that would be their effective permission. If you had a user that was just a member of these two groups, then this would have been the effective permission. Okay? If you had a user who was a member of sales and manager, same thing, you'd still get full control. Okay, but what happens when you have users who are members of these groups and you have conflicts between NTFS and Share? So is that possible? Yes, it's definitely possible, and we have to think about that. Okay, so imagine this situation here. Let's say that sales has been given read and execute, okay, and marketing has been given read, and then managers have been given modify, okay? So this gets really complex because you have to think, well, wait a minute, now I'm not dealing with just one access control list, I'm dealing with two. I'm dealing with the NTFS access control list and share. So what will my effective permissions be for this user? And that's, of course, if the user is a member of all three groups. So let's say you had a user, let's say John Smith here, and John Smith is a member of all three of these groups. Let me just draw this little line to indicate that he's part of all three groups. So you got John Smith, he's a member of all three groups. What will his effective permissions be? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you, this is the way it works, okay? When NTFS conflicts with share permissions, it's most restrictive that will get applied. Most restrictive that will get applied. Now, here's the problem with that. Most people will look at this little table and they'll say, well, the most restrictive one on the table is read. Read is going to restrict you more than any of the other permissions. So there's your effective permission. But I'm going to tell you right now, you get it wrong. If this was a test question and you said that was read, you'd get it wrong. Here's what you do. Here's the secret. Go down my little chart. Start with this column and add them up. Then add these up and then add them together. Okay? So think about it. Let's do that. Read and execute plus read plus modify, the effective permission, because it's cumulative, is going to be modify, right? Now do this column. Change plus read plus full control equals full control. Now add up the last one, the most restrictive one, modify plus full control. What's more restrictive, modify or full control? Modify. And there is your effective permission. So don't just look on the screen and say, well, the most restrictive one is going to be the answer. You have to work it out like this. Now here's another thing I want to warn you about. These permissions right here, these bottom two, here's a rule of thumb for you. These bottom two permissions will only take effect, only happen if the user is connecting over the network to the resource. Okay, so if this John Smith person was accessing this folder over the network, then you would definitely focus on all three rules. But if the user was sitting locally at the computer and accessing the resource, then you can just ignore these altogether. The only thing you need to focus on is this one column right here. You can ignore the share permissions altogether. If they're not accessing this across the network, then you would only focus on this one. This is why people will tell you in the IT world, the general rule of thumb is to always make the NTFS more restrictive than share, because that way, no matter what, the user is always going to end up with the same permissions. Okay? All right. So that hopefully gives you a good visualization. You can use this little chart. If you were taking the exam and you were writing this on your little scratch pad or whatever they give you, you could jot this information down in a question, and it will really help you visualize things. Okay. Now I want to show you one more thing that will allow you to essentially tell what effective permissions somebody's going to have. Okay, so now looking back here at this ACL, I want to show you how to view the effective access privileges of a user. So I've got a user who's named John Smith, and John Smith is a member of sales, marketing, and managers. Okay, so he's a member of all three groups. Sales have read and execute, list folder contents, and read. Marketing has just read. And then managers have modify. Okay, so if I click advanced, I can go to the effective access tab here, and I can click select a user, and I can type John Smith. We can look at his privileges now by clicking view effective access. As you can see, he doesn't have full control. He has all these privileges. He does not have delete subfolders, file, change permission, or take ownership, which those are all permissions that the modify privileges do not give you. But as you can see, he has everything that modify would give you. So that shows you right there. Now, if I wanted, I could jump over to my domain controller and I could remove, if I clicked on John Smith, I could remove him out of these groups and he would no longer have those privileges. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a good understanding of the effective access tab and being able just to kind of calculate what those privileges are, and hopefully you have a much better foundation now for understanding permissions in the Windows environment.